All right, so how are we doing it? How's the intro working?
I'm gonna say the intro.
You're gonna say the intro,
Yeah, I explained last week why I say the intro.
so I don't even get a shot at going for the intro.
No. Good evening. Welcome to Online with OnPoint, episode 8.
Well, good evening once again, our OnPoint family. So good that you have taken some time out tonight to join us. We are officially in episode 9 of Online with OnPoint. So we are officially a Star Wars franchise, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't understand the context of that, there are a lot of Star Wars movies. 9 in the main story. So there you go. Anyways, we are excited about today and the series that we are beginning because it is a series on family, and we love talking about family. We both come from different family dynamics, family backgrounds, but man, God has brought us together to lead our own family. And so we are just excited to have this conversation about family over the next 4 weeks and kind of see what God does within the conversation. Being that, though, this series is actually entitled Atypical. And so what does atypical mean?
It means not the norm.
Not the norm. And, part of the reason for this, I feel like, is families today aren't always what would be considered normal. And I would venture to say no family is normal, right? But even just in the nature of the families that we have or that we have grown up in, we've experienced blended families, adopted families, foster families, single parent home families, just divorced families, just all kinds of different families. And I think what we have experienced in our lives and what we've experienced in our friends and even just the dynamic of our family members that have grown up in different households and things is family, be it that it's imperfect, that it's a little bit messy, that it's extremely painful at times, is a very beautiful thing. And God can continue to use family in our lives to do pretty remarkable things in the ways that He continues to shape and mold who we have been created to be. So I just want to start the conversation around family with asking you a very broad question of what does family mean to you?
I think anyone who knows me knows how important family is. Obviously, our immediate family, me, you, and our daughters, but also even just like my mom and my brothers and my sisters and my dad and the people that I was raised with, just because of I was blessed to live in a house with both my parents, very hardworking, great role models. But to say that there wasn't struggles would be a lie. Within that, I have, I'm the second oldest of 5, so we range from the age of 31 to 10. And so it was a lot of responsibility really young, lots of helping raise children, and obviously all the other struggles that come with growing up in a family, as a teenager, as a child, the pushback that you have with your parents that I usually gave them, but also on understanding and knowing, like now at the stage in life that I am at, that I would have not been able to be the person that I am today without them and their influence and their pushback with me and my attitude. So and the relationship that I have with my family now is probably the closest we've ever been, because of that mutual understanding of knowing that we are where we are today because of our parents, but also understanding that now that me and my sister have children, that our mothers are best. My mom and my dad are probably our best role models and mentors within parenthood, along with marriage, that they can feed us the knowledge and wisdom that they've learned throughout their experiences, and outside of that, just their experiences within life, and their struggle, because they had a harder life than we did. And so I think that, using them and allowing them to share their stories with you in order to help shape you and give you a better understanding of what life could have been like for you versus what it is for you now, in present time, is also a huge aspect of why my family is so important to me, and creating a family for my daughters with the help of my immediate family. So
yeah, and so it's a little bit of background of her just even immediate family, and that's not even really exploring some of the nature of just some of the effects that extended family can have within the immediate family. To share a little bit of mine, and some of you all know my story of divorce. And so, I was raised in a divorced home in a blended family. My parents divorced at the age of 3. When I was not that they weren't at the age of 3. That'd be a little awkward. I was at the age of 3 when my parents divorced, and then within that, I think within the first year following the divorce, my mom had remarried, and then wasn't too far behind that by the time my dad had gotten remarried. So really, by the age of 5, the blended family for me was established. So I'm the youngest of 3, being that my oldest sister is actually a step sibling. Granted, when everything happens when you're 3 or 4 years old, it's been 25 years of my life that my oldest sister has been a sister to me. Like you get to a certain place where you just stop using the step family or the step language, and so I just again, growing up, and many of you who are growing up in divorced families know the struggle and the impact that has. A lot of questions, not always getting answers of why things happen the way they happen. Trying to find the balance of functioning and living within a life where parents can parent differently, especially when they've established a household with a new spouse. So different formations, different rules, different structure within the home. And so, as a child of divorce, you're growing up in 2 different family structures, household structures. And so, there were definitely some great influence and impact on my life that at the time I definitely felt was very negative. Just trying to find balance of which parent to please, and how to kind of maneuver life, and the late night Walmart pickups and drop offs, and pulling a duffel bag out of one trunk and putting it in the other, and but again, in saying all of what the experience was growing up in an imperfect family, and this is what I'll kind of gravitate to you here in a second too, is this idea is how has God used our family makeups to groom and grow and equip us into really the creation I firmly believe that God has established for me. I don't feel like I could minister and pastor and communicate and encourage the same that I have the ability to do now because of the experience I went through. Had I not gone through the family structure and experience that I'd gone growing up, and a big part of that is even in the midst of this, I will say both families, both households really tried to establish church from an early age for me. So from the age of 6, I started going and being a part of the church, and really begin to understand and foundationalize this understanding of what a chosen family could be. I use that language, and it's kind of awkward, I think, sometimes to utilize it, but I just was amazed, I guess, at how impactful leaders, mentors, friends could really play a role in the development of how I understood family. And really the truth of the matter was many of my friends all grew up in broken homes, broken environments, parents that had passed away, other friends who had divorced parents and remarriages, and just just all the difficult circumstances. And so kind of that chosen family sense was really our ability to kind of debrief, kind of just vent and let things out. But I will say too, even in that, knowing that my sisters and I had all gone through a similar experience together, the foundation of siblings was greatly impactful and influential in my life. I can remember several times growing up that because primarily through my childhood, my biological sister and I, there was a time where my oldest sister lived out of state with her mom, and so we would take advantage of our Christmases and our summer vacations and those capacities to really get to know each other. That was during the time when you had to drive before you got a cell phone, right? Like 8-year-olds now have cell phones. We didn't have that when we were 8, so we were very dependent on those moments where she could fly in from out of town. But for the vast majority, my biological sister and I, we didn't live in the same household. We had the same mom, had the same dad, but for the vast majority of our childhood, she lived with my mom, I lived with my dad. So we would only see each other on weekends, and so we really had to take advantage of those moments together. And a motto that kind of developed in our family was this idea of quality over quantity. It wasn't necessarily about the quantity of time we had together; it's about the quality in which we made it. And so I can remember countless times sleeping on my sister's floor just so we could have those late night conversations and talk through things. And but again, as I'm sitting here today as an adult, as a 28-year-old about to be 29 in a month, that's crazy. Anyway, so I just, as I look back, there are so many things about the family that we're establishing today, as husband and wife and our children. But there's also just things that as a pastor, as a leader, as a teacher, that I don't think I would be who I am today without the experience of the family that I grew up in. So I just wanted to, again, kind of follow up with you, like how has God used some of that makeup of family in your life to really impact who you are today as not only just as a spouse, as a mother, but as a teacher and a leader and things within the community as well.
I think it's easy for especially for girls when they're like, oh, you're gonna be just like your mom, and how sometimes we really fight that. We're like, no, we don't want to be like our mom, because obviously it's probably most likely the teenage years where they're like, oh, no, I don't want to be anything like my mom because I want to be my own person and I want to do my own thing. You're fighting for that independence. But I can say that I am exactly like my mother now, because of the influences she had in my life. My mom worked in education for 19 years, and her love and her passion for that had led me to be a teacher as well. The way that she parents and the fact that she had so many kids that I had to parent as well was a huge impact in the mother that I am today. And so my dad and the godly man that he is, I'm going to start crying because I love them so much. Sorry, guys. I haven't seen them in a while. It's been a long quarantine. But even just my dad and the man that he is and the leader that he is in my home has been a huge impact on our relationship and how I see how what I deserve and my worth within a relationship, which I struggled with all of my teenage years until Justin. And so that's been a huge impact as well. And I think that God used all that because God knows that my parents did not have beautiful upbringings. They didn't have perfect upbringings. Yet when they came together, they knew that God had a better purpose for them, not to relive their parents' lives, not to create the same atmosphere that their parents created, but to push past that and to push past the obstacles that he continued to throw, because we didn't have lots of money when we were first born. We lived in really small apartments, yet in my childhood I don't remember any of that. I just remember my parents doing everything and anything they can to make us happy and to fill us with joy. and the hard work that they showed in everything that they did. Both my parents worked all of my life, and they were they're still the hardest working people that I know. And so I think that kind of shaped me as a person, and thinking of careers and getting things done. They have helped push me, even if they don't verbally tell me, but even seeing their worth ethic and knowing that that was a standard for me. Anything below that, I didn't seem as a tangible thing, because I knew how hard my parents worked to get to where they are today. And I think within that, because of the brokenness that my family experiences and still experiences in present day, that they take it with such stride and such grace, despite that they can easily not do it that way, that they have every reason to be angry, or every reason to be frustrated, or to show those emotions in certain family situations, but they've always just shown love and grace. And I think that's really impactful for me when I think of how God could use such broken families to bring a beautiful family together, and also help shape other families through just witnessing their commitment and their actions and their passions for life and their work and stuff. So sorry, I'll stop crying now.
Yeah. You're fine. I mean, I just think too, when I think of your family a lot, I think, Grace, you hit that word so strong. And Grace obviously has been a major impact in our life, and the ways that not only family has displayed grace, but even within the church that has, in our story of just displaying grace, and why it's our first daughter's middle name, and so many avenues of just the reminders and things that we want within that. I'd even venture to say just another thing I've learned from your family too is forgiveness. You have there is a lot of baggage and brokenness from the extended family, and just even in the nature of some of how your mom and dad were raised, and just to see them as leaders in the home continue to lead. I mean, yes, there's a sternness factor, and there's a challenge, and always a desire to be better, but it comes from a place of love and grace and forgiveness, which again, I think when you set high standards like your family has, they're really good about encouraging, even if you don't hit that standard, or when you don't reach that expectation, and to see the way your mom and dad come alongside of really just even us in our marriage. And I know both of our families have played roles in our marriage, and how we and the reason we're who we are today. But I just want to, like, in your family, as I kind of see things, and parts of your family that have really encouraged me since we've been married has been, you say that grace word a lot, but also just the ability to forgive in things, and to lead through hardship, and just kind of the grit and the tenacity that comes along with life. And so, I think that's a beautiful thing. And honestly, I think it's just a beautiful thing of just how God, again, so the premise of today's message, and what we want you to get out of even our reading from today in Genesis 2 through 4. And we challenged you guys yesterday to begin that process of reading through those 3 chapters, and just understanding and looking at the very first family in the Bible, right? The very first family, Adam and Eve, their sons, and really, I guess...
Well, even before their sons, within their marriage, like as a family, like the decisions that they made to take the fruit that led them into the life that they were living when they had a family,
Yeah. And I think, when you talk about just the story of Adam and Eve specifically, it's the story of the introduction of, I say that. Let me start with it. Their story starts and really is about God's nature, right? Like it starts with Him creating man and woman in His image for unity, for relationship, for and so I think a lot of people actually establish, like, they want to read the beginning of the Bible as like when sin enters the world, but I think sometimes we forget, like, there's 2-3 chapters before sin enters the world, where God is establishing and ordaining what creation is to be intended to be. And so, yes, that's where Adam and Eve's story begins. But just like any family, we fail, we mess up, we bring sin into the equation, which again makes life difficult. It challenges. And what we learn from Adam and Eve's story is your decision doesn't always just affect you. It affects other people that you have influence over as well. And I think there's no clearer picture of that in family when, a father's decision not only affects the wife, but it affects the children as well. A son's decision can affect the sibling. It just, every person's role within the family, their decisions can definitely factor in how things happen, how we understand things, and kind of the consequences that come from within. So yeah, we have Adam and Eve and the institution of sin, the introduction of sin in our world. And here's Ellie.
Here's part of our family.
Yeah. Do you want to here? Can you get her up here? Mm-hmm. This was not scripted, so here we go. If you had to say what family means to you, what would you say?
Love you.
No.
Love you. There we go. That's good.
I love you too.
Couldn't have planned it any better.
We didn't tell her what to say.
Yeah. So, can you give us a few more minutes, baby?
We're almost done, okay?
Ah, you're about to drop me.
I'm not going to drop you. Put your feet down. Put your feet down so you can stand.
Yeah. There we go. Stomping away, shaking our camera. Yeah, so again, Adam and Eve, the story of when sin enters the world, and then again that first generation beyond Adam and Eve, and again you talk about just the effects of generations. You have the story of Cain and Abel, which is what we read about in Genesis 2-4. When you get to Genesis 4, you're reading of the story of Cain and Abel, and again just the imperfection of family and how things are perceived, and there was perception of favoritism, and that Abel was getting more than what Cain was, and there was a jealousy factor and things that all can kind of come in with siblings, and just the nature of you love each other, but there's also this kind of like love-hate relationship sometimes with siblings, and you challenge each other, and we know the story of what actually happens with Cain murdering Abel, which is a brutal depiction of how harsh humanity can be at times.
Or even just, family. Like, family can be the one to hurt you. And I think that's important to know that, like, every family, there's imperfection, there's struggle, there's going to be hurdles that, may not seem like you can do it. And family may let you down, just like anybody else on this earth will. They will let you down. But knowing that that's part of family. That's part of...
Well, and here's what I love about this story, because I think you're spot on with how we understand this. What I would add to this, though, and just the beautiful nature of God, is that even in the midst of this bitterness, this hatred, this anger, this jealousy, the brokenness that is family, the pain that family can cause one another, God still uses them in a major way, and it's partial. Not partially, because it's fully because God is a very redemptive God. Like, He redeems things. He's in the redemptive business. So we have here a broken family, just a brutal family at times, a very painful family, but God's redemptive nature still had a plan for that family, which I think is the beautiful thing as we enter into this series, is no matter the family that you were a part of, via whether you view it good or bad or hard or just challenging, or you have a very loving home, like you feel like you have a very unloving home. I believe if we really, and again, I think this is very difficult, but I think we would be surprised at times if we just turn our attention to God in the midst of the brokenness and the pain and the struggle and the turmoil, and even in the joyful moments and the happy moments and the good things that we're learning through family, if we continue to turn through God in that, and he redeems things, he has a plan for things. And that's what if you were to really continue to the story of Genesis, and this is what I love so much about the story of Genesis is, so Cain and Abel, that happens, God actually blesses Adam and Eve with another son in Seth. And Seth is actually the foundation and the formation of the generations to come that would actually lead to Noah and humanity as we know it today. But, I always talk about the meaning of names, because I believe the meaning of names is especially in the Bible, is a great depiction of God's plan for things. And we see early in the stories of family with Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, just the brutal, painful nature that sometimes family can bring. But again, God had a plan to use this family, and he, names, and especially in the Old Testament, even the New Testament, especially in the Old Testament, their names, the meaning of their names had very clear purpose that was written into God's story. And if you were to look at the genealogy from Seth, Adam to Noah, and you were to actually combine their names in their English meanings, like I have this paper somewhere and I don't have it on me, and again, I wasn't planning to talk about this, but again, as we're thinking about the way God uses family, it's just so beautiful of this. But basically, kind of the synopsis of that, if you were to take Seth or Adam all the way through Noah, and translate every word, every name together, it actually is kind of this prophecy that's spoken over the entire world that basically says, mortals, humans, Adam's name literally means man, which could be translated as human. Humans were kind of brought about a sin, right? Like in the effects of sin. And this is again the synopsis of it. But God redeems and brings about righteousness. And so there's this clear contrast even in the beginning purposes of God's design for family, for God's designs of genealogy, that there was clear written purpose and instruction for how God was going to bring about life, going to bring about redemption out of death. Like that's just he brings life out of death, right? Like not only we see that time and time again within the miracles of Jesus, but it's just the nature of Adam and Eve intro sin into the world. We deserve death because of that sin. God brings about ways of life. So he, it's making something beautiful out of something messy, and that's what God does. And I firmly believe he can do that with family. So I would just strongly encourage you guys, as we kind of close out today, to continue reading some of that story of Genesis and really unpack. I will, in the email that I will send as the recap, I will send the name list. Yeah, I think that's actually a really cool thing, and I have that in one of my Bibles here, tucked away. Something that I've learned in college. And I think it's just a beautiful depiction of how great God is. And so I'll include that just as an additional resource. You should have access already to the reflection questions to be thinking through and using during your devotional time. It's also some of the stuff that we'll use during our small group time here in the next moment or two. So any closing thoughts, any hopes as we kind of venture into this, if you could do it in 15 to 20 seconds of just where you hope this series leads over the next few weeks?
I'm really excited because obviously if you didn't already know by my crying, I really love family. I love my family. I love the impact that they have on me and how they've shaped me to start my own family with Justin. And so I'm excited to see how we can use this series in changing the perspective of the ways that we may see family now in our present time, and how we can push them and be the motivation within our families to change the script and to really grow close to our family, and utilizing the things that we may be going through, the things that we may be struggling with within family as a way to grow closer to Jesus.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm going to pray, and then we'll leave it there. Father God, we one are so thankful for you. You're an amazing God who continues to do amazing things in the midst of our lives. And so we just want to thank you for that. We just want to thank you for the ways in which you continue to bring about blessing with every family that's represented here. And I know sometimes it's hard to see blessing in our lives because everything else is so clear at times. The negativity, the pain, the struggle, because that's what we feel, and that stuff is real. And so what we just continue to pray over these next several weeks is that we can see your redemptive nature in how we live in our families, and just within the pain, within the brokenness, within the struggle of life, you are in the redemptive business, and you can redeem those things. And so we just pray that we can be a people that turns things over to you. And we just pray for the families represented, that we can be a community, that we could be a church, a ministry, a student body that just has a way of impacting family, and also a ways we can be a people who allow allow family to really be a voice in how we see the ways in which you're creating us to be, how you're equipping us, how you are preparing us for the ministry, for the mission, for the purposes that you have laid out for us that we can't see yet. And so, I think sometimes it's so easy to get caught into what we can see today and really not see the bigger picture of maybe what you have in store for us down the road. And so just pray for all of this, just for things to be redeemed, for us to be able to see you even in the hard stuff. And again, just thank you again for so much for loving us, and again, just redeeming our brokenness through your son Jesus, who came and died on a cross for us so that we could live an eternity with you. And so we're just thankful for you. We're thankful for your son Jesus, and it's his name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. We love you guys. We're thankful for you.
See you in a bit.
See you in a bit.